It is my pleasure to introduce someone who brings both professional expertise and deeply personal insight to the conversation, Dr. Kara Dingess. Dr. Dingess is a licensed psychologist who understands the complexities of chronic illness, not just through clinical practice, but through lived experience. Diagnosed as a child with systemic juvenile idiopathic arthritis, and now living as an adult with psoriatic arthritis, she truly embodies what she calls the best of both worlds.
Her unique perspective bridges the emotional and medical journeys of patients and families, allowing her to connect in powerful, meaningful ways. Today, she'll guide us through an important conversation titled Building Trust, Easing Worries, and Growing Together. Dr. Dingess will explore how we can foster emotional resilience, strengthen relationships, and support one another through the ups and downs of chronic illnesses, whether as patients, parents, caregivers, or clinicians. Since attending her first JA Family Summit in 2015, Dr. Dingess has been a dedicated and active member of our community. We extend our sincere thanks for her generous spirit and her tireless efforts in sharing her knowledge on so many useful topics. Please join us in welcoming Dr. Kara Dingess.
So as they said, today we're going to be talking through a few different things. Just to get started, I want to say there are note cards on your table. So if you have any questions, feel free to write them down. We're going to have some runners coming around at the end. If we have time, we'll answer any questions that you have. All right? So to get started, authenticity and transparency are super important to me in my day-to-day and in my daily practice. And so in order for us to really open up those healthy lines of communication, I'm going to be authentic and I'm going to be transparent. So here's a little bit about me. I know you kind of heard a little bit before I got up on the stage, but I was diagnosed when I was 6 with JIA, and through puberty it then changed to SJIA, and now as an adult, I never dropped the J, but I have psoriatic arthritis. And so I've been involved in the Arthritis Foundation for about 15 years now in a variety of different capacities. I've attended camp as a camper, I then went back as a counselor, and then I've been involved in walks, JBR, and the Family Summit. 2015 was my first year, so I had a lot of fun then, and I've been coming back ever since. So I joked with the medical committee. I was like, all right, what is one surefire way that everybody's going to remember this talk? And I was like, all right, I'm going to have everybody stand up, and we're going to sing head, shoulders, knees, and toes. And they were like, oh, I don't know about that. So instead of doing that, what we're going to do is we're going to do what I call a progressive muscle relaxation technique. And so I want everybody to participate. Now, I'm used to working with the kids. This is the first year that they've let me work with the adults, so be prepared. This is what I do with the kids. So I want everybody to do it, and if you're not doing it, I'm going to call you out on it. So I want you to take your hands like this, and I want you to pretend that you have lemons in your hands, and you are going to squeeze those lemons, and you're going to make lemonade, right? So I'm going to count to 5, and we're going to squeeze. Now, I don't want you to hurt yourself, right? We all, our kids have arthritis here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to gently squeeze our hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now I want you to wiggle your fingers out. Wiggle them out. Great. Spirit fingers. I'm loving it, all right? So that was the hands. Now I want you to pretend that you are a lazy cat, and you're in the sun. I want you to stretch up. Everybody, stretch up, stretch back. All the way around, and now wiggle it out. Wiggle it out. All right, there you go. So those are 2 techniques. So for the sake of time, I just did those 2. And what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to do it from head to toe, right? We're squeezing and we're relaxing those muscles. And now what it does is it allows you to bring your attention to those body parts, right? So we can see where we're holding that stress. How does it feel? What does it feel after, so that we can get used to the idea of feeling that relaxation, maybe where we hold that stress, where we hold that pain. And so the first question I typically get from the kids when I do that with them is, but what if my hands hurt and I can't squeeze those lemons? It's a valid question. So we never want to do it to hurt ourselves, right? We never want to squeeze so hard that we're hurting ourselves. But what that does is that opens the door for communication, right? So if you're doing body checks with your kids, which I highly recommend you do, and this is one way that you can do it, is you can notice, like, oh, my hands are really hurting. Okay, well, how does it hurt? Where does it hurt? When did it start hurting? And you can do that with a variety of different body parts, right? So again, from your head down to your toes. And what that also does is that opens up the connection between noticing where you're feeling it and how you're feeling it, noticing where in your body it is, and then we can put words and communicate that with others. So, head, shoulders, knees, and toes. So in order just to give you a little bit of background, I want to kind of give just a very brief rundown of what typical anxiety looks like. So other questions I get is, well, how do I know if it's anxiety versus puberty versus just JA? And this is kind of a brief, again, very brief example of what to look for. So generalized anxiety disorder are those excessive and uncontrollable worries that we have across multiple events or activities. And we'll have 3 different domains up on your screen. And so the key here is you're gonna have at least 3 of these symptoms over the course of 6 months. Again, very, very generalized. So we've got, we might see sleep changes, we might see those racing thoughts, that panic in our chest, a lot of worry, difficulties breathing. So those are some of the typical anxiety symptoms that you're gonna see. Now I wanna point out that we have generalized anxiety, and then we have anxiety around our health. Now, I'm not talking about hypochondriasis. The term hypochondriac gets thrown around a lot, and that's not what I'm talking about. And so, generalized anxiety was what I just covered. But health anxiety is those fears or excessive worries around traumatic events like hospitalizations, drug reactions. Again, just being transparent with you, every March, I still feel a little bit of anxiety because I had a bad hospitalization about 6 years ago, and that still comes up for me. But noticing that and being aware of that in my body, I'm able to know kind of what's going on and why I'm reacting that way. So it's important to differentiate between generalized anxiety and then anxiety around your health. Now, I do want to point out, though, that anxiety around your health can generalize to generalized anxiety. We can take that and we can then start applying avoidant behaviors to other things that maybe make us feel similarly to that. So then what does typical depression look like? So the key here for typical depression, and I'm using the words typical, again, nothing is normal, nothing is typical, but these are our manual diagnoses of what these symptoms look like. And so depression, you have to have at least 4 of these symptoms over the course of 2 weeks. So again, it's important to know the time frame here. And that's why these communication techniques that I'm going to talk about, that's why that comes into play, because we need to figure out when it happened, how it happened, why it happened. So these symptoms, again, can include difficulties concentrating. It can include those labile moods. We can have just a withdrawal or isolation from activities that we love and we find joy in. All right, so now that we know what they look like, let's talk about what true burnout is and solutions to work through that. So identifying that caregiver burnout. So this is a kind of, on our panel, we're gonna have mom, a dad, and a sibling. And so I really wanna focus on the different perspectives that we can each bring and how JA and how these symptoms in fact impact the family as a whole. So caregiver burnout. Parents, are you putting on your mask before you put on your child's mask? Are you filling up your cup before you fill up the cups of others? I think it's important that we all do these check-ins, because how are we gonna know when we reach the point of burnout unless we do those reflections with ourselves? And then how do we identify that in the siblings? Well, we're gonna see acting out, we're gonna see academic changes, we're gonna see that increased anxiety in them. And so it's important to identify these symptoms within yourself so that you can then know whether or not your behaviors or your actions are impacting the family as a whole. So we really want to know when to seek help. And this is what I was getting at with the normal, I don't like that word, but typical versus JA versus puberty, is we want to know the frequency. We want to know how often is it happening? How many areas of our life is it impacting? Is there a triggering event that comes to it? So running through your checklist, when I get parents that come to me and they're like, my kid is anxious, they're about these things, okay, well, we need to figure out the when, why, how, all of the different factors that go into play to know and really narrow down, is this anxiety, is this JA, is this puberty? I have listed up here where to seek help. The Arthritis Foundation has an awesome hotline that you can reach out to, and they have, I believe, social workers that are working and can help you point you in the right direction for that. PCP, so your primary care, is always your first stop, but I also like recommending going through your insurance company so that you know what is covered. You can reach out to therapeutic agencies. You can reach out if you have a church group, a support group, whatever, friends that you have. That's also a great way to get started, connecting with others, using those coping mechanisms that you have in your back pocket. And then why to seek help? Like, why do we want to do this? Well, we want to make sure that we're able to take care of ourselves and take care of our families. Again, wanting to make sure that you're able, there's a mic there, you're able to fill your cup before you fill the cups of others. So again, the key thing from this side is really just how often are those symptoms occurring? How bad is it getting? And is it impacting our child's ability to do other things? All right, so now that we know how it feels, and now that we know how to seek help and what it looks like, how do we communicate that with others? Well, I'm a true millennial, so we're going to talk it out. And then we're going to walk it out. And so talking it out, we always want to acknowledge and identify. So we want to label those emotions. I have a feelings wheel on the next slide. It is also available in the app. For you, you can download it. You can just Google it. I recommend putting it up on your fridge at home, really bringing it to family meetings when you sit down, because it is going to give you the words that go with the feeling. And that way you can really start communicating that and using that language when you talk to your children, when you talk to your friends, when you talk to your husband or wife, your partner. It's really important to have that language. Now, I also want to point out, because I work with the kids a lot, I tell them all the time, we have a lot of pressure as a JA kid to often feel like we have to be the superhero. We have to be the positive one in the family. And I think it's really important to acknowledge, especially in those family meetings or those one-on-ones that you do with your kid, that it is okay to take that cape off and just be. Because a lot of times we get super kind of in our head about, okay, we've got to do this for everybody. We have to be that person for everybody. And it's important to take a step back and realize that at the end of the day, you're just human, and you have to give yourself that grace. And so how we communicate that, through highs, lows, and buffaloes, through I statements. Oh, highs, lows, and buffaloes, what's that? That is a high of the day, like what's something good that happened. A low, obviously something that was maybe a little bit of a downer. And then a buffalo is something crazy or random or exciting that happened. I think that this is a great way to talk to your kids outside of, hey, hon, how was your day? Fine. Or, hey, what did you do today? Nothing. I think this is a great way that provides them the opportunity to share something different that happened outside of one-word answers, because I'm sure you all love those one-word answers. I statements. So I statements is really important. In the therapeutic world, we use these a lot to talk about taking ownership of what you're feeling. So if you're upset or if you're worried, you never want to go to somebody else and be like, you made me feel this way. That puts it on that person, and then there's not a healthy line of communication that's open. So you really want to take ownership of those feelings. And a great I statement to use, especially like within a healthcare setting, is like, I feel anxious because I don't know what's going to happen, and that makes me feel out of control. So I feel blank because of blank. So again, implementing and using those feeling words that are on the feeling wheel related to the incident or whatever behavior that is happening. Humor is laughter really is the best medicine. I did my dissertation on it. Funny enough, a dark humor. So making fun of ourselves, making fun of the situation. That was the only significant result in my dissertation on parents of kids with chronic illnesses, was using dark humor to cope. So humor really is the best medicine here. And for those that don't like to talk, alternate ways of getting, having that outlet. So whether it be through art, through music, screaming into your pillow, whatever it is, really finding other ways to express yourself. And then behavioral activation. So getting active, going for a walk, doing something, distraction. My therapist told me distraction was also sometimes a really good coping mechanism to use. So in doing it in appropriate amounts of time, not doom scrolling on TikTok, but taking time and doing something to get your body active. Here's this feelings wheel on a bigger slide for you. Again, it is in your app. If you have seen Inside Out, you know that those core emotions are there, and then as it fans out, you've got the more specific words that you can use. Again, I think this is really helpful for kids because it gives them the language that they need. And I always like to challenge the kids that I work with, because they'll come into the office and they'll be like, oh, I really feel, okay. I'm like, well, let's pick a word on the feelings wheel and let's start there. So even challenging them to look at the wheel and identify specifically what they're feeling. So now we're gonna walk it out, all right? So modeling those conversations when you talk to your partner, when you talk to your kids, when you talk to your kids' doctors, you want to model the language being used. You want to integrate and involve your kid in the conversations that they're having with the doctor. Really feeling like they have a voice. You know, we not only want to be heard, but we also really want to be listened to. You know, like we really want to know that our voice is being heard and what we're feeling is being taken into consideration. So including them in those conversations with their doctors, and then with you, encouraging them to use those I statements by you using them yourself. Consistent communication is key, okay? Both for parents and kids, and modeling this is the way to do that. So being consistent across the board with how you talk to each other and how you talk to them. You also want to establish those healthy boundaries versus helicoptering. Now, guys, they're kids. They're gonna make mistakes. They're gonna test boundaries. And I think that that's appropriate to do so to an extent. So you want to use your parent gut, your parent judgment. You want to make sure they're doing that in a safe way. But at the end of the day, yes, they have JA, but they're also a kid. And things are going to happen, and it's up to you to talk to them about that in a healthy way, in a way that they feel safe and they feel heard and respected. So allowing them to make mistakes is good for growth, but also you stepping in, using your intuition and judgment with that is okay, because we don't want things to get harmful. So I had the idea for a panel that we would have, again, a mom represented, a dad represented, and a sibling represented. Because I often get told by my brother 30 years later that my diagnosis still impacts him to this day. So I wanted us all to have different perspectives and really hear what it's like from each person. So I'm going to welcome the panel up, and we're gonna open the floor up for some questions as well. All right, so I have our first lovely guest up here is Corinne Pinter. She's a mom of 3. Her middle daughter, Emily, was diagnosed at 2 with JIA. She has been a volunteer locally in Houston and nationally for the Arthritis Foundation for over 10 years. She's an active volunteer on the JA Family Summit Planning Committee as an advisory committee member, and she was the 2023 JA Family Summit Chair in Atlanta. Next up, I have Fidel Benitez. He is a proud father from Missouri and a passionate advocate within the JIA community. His son Nathan lives with polyarticular juvenile idiopathic arthritis, and their family's journey has inspired Fidel to share their story, raise awareness, and support others facing similar challenges. And last but not least, I have our sibling. I have Alex Schell. He is 18 years old and was 6 when his sister Sophia was diagnosed with JRA. He has been involved with the Arthritis Foundation for 8 years now, and he will be attending Auburn University in the fall. All right. You clap? Yeah. Yeah, let's clap for them. Awesome. All right. So our first question is going to go to Fidel, okay? So we're going to talk about this. So are there times that you felt like you had to fix everything before talking about it?
I think I speak for all dads. When your spouse brings you a problem, the first thing we got to do is come up with a solution. So especially when you get that phone call during the middle of work and your wife tells you, hey, our kid has been diagnosed with JIA, so now you're constantly thinking about it, dealing with work, but also trying to see if your YouTube certified mechanic can like start clicking on YouTube and seeing if there's a how-to video on how to fix JIA. But before you start coming up with those solutions. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case this time, and you just had to do a lot of research and getting to that point of how can I fix it before I start talking to someone else, because I know if I bring that question or that topic to one of my buddies, then they're also going to try to fix it, because now I'm putting burden onto them, and they're trying to find also a solution to help me while I'm trying to help my family. So yes, there's been a couple times where I had to just sit down, try to fix it, and then once I have somewhat of a solution, then I can bring it back into the table and then seek guidance from there.
Yeah, I'm gonna add on to that. I'm gonna throw you a little curveball here. How do you start that conversation with your family?
It's usually trying to figure out what my role is first, right? I don't want to overstep on something that my wife is already doing. And then from there, once I figure out, okay, this is what she needs, then I should start, okay, well, figuring out and then bring up that topic of what I need to do into the relationship, so that way we can both start helping our kid.
Yeah, no, I love that answer. Yeah. Any of you have anything you want to add to that?
Yes,
Oh, go for
I
it.
do. The funny thing is depending on when the diagnosis is, when Emily was diagnosed at 2, you have a toddler, you're thinking long-term, all these things, your head's going crazy, you want to fix everything, everybody's trying to tell you what to do. You go through the stages of that, you go to the doctors, you find the support, you get to spot, and then you hit teenage years, and they have a lot of say in what happens, because you want to give them, their voice in the matter. And recently, this is of recent, in the past 6 months, she's thinking about going to college and going to do different things. We're so protective. We want to make every opportunity and every surrounding and every decision and everything correct, that my stress of that stressed her out. Us fixing it doesn't fix the problem. Us trying to fix it doesn't fix the problem. And that was even, this weekend. So we have to come to the point of also, how are we showing up for ourselves and our kids in these situations, that we are not here to fix everything. We have to work with them in these situations too, because this is all of our first times living this life, doing this. We also need to realize we're here to support them as well. These things can't be fixed.
Yeah, no, you bring a good point up, and it gets back to like my first slide about me being transparent and authentic, right? Because that opens the line up for healthy communication. It's okay to tell them like, hey, you know what? Mom doesn't know right now, but we're gonna figure it out together. And letting them see your emotion for what you're experiencing, that lets them know that it's safe for them to show that they're scared too. So I like that. That's awesome. You good? Okay. All right, our next question, funny enough, is going to Alex. So what's something that you've learned that has helped make challenging conversations or situations with your children or parents easier? I know you don't have any kids, but with your parents.
I think something that has made it so much easier is just tackling it head on. I know like at times it's like a natural human thing to feel like your emotions or something you perceive as challenging may not seem as challenging as to what someone else is experiencing, but your experiences are valid and they do need to be addressed with everyone else. So I think, and it's something I had to learn too, because I struggle with vulnerability, is just being so head on and direct with these things. It limits yourself so much if you don't address them when you need to address them, because you're gonna build up either resentment or you're gonna emotionally shield yourself for so long. And so just saying that to your siblings or your parents, you have to address that it's not offending you, if anything like that, but it's something I'm dealing with and it's something I need to be addressed.
Fidel, Corinne, y'all have anything you want to chime in on? All right. No, I definitely know. I mean, again, I made the joke that my brother still reminds me 30 years later that my diagnosis impacts him. And looking back on, had he voiced those opinions as a child, like, would things have been different? So I really want to encourage any siblings in the room, or if you have any, children that, that don't have JA, really encouraging them to speak up and let them know that it's okay if they don't like what's going on. We'll work together to fix it. We can find ways to work around it. Accommodations can be made, stuff like that. So I really think siblings' voices are important as well. Corinne, do you find yourself keeping worries or fears to yourself so your children, or for Alex, your parents, don't feel more stress?
Yes.
All right, give me some.
Correct, yes, I do. No, and just like I said earlier, I mean, if your child's diagnosed early and they're young, I think there's certain feelings, and it's scary regardless if they're 2 12, 18, 22. I mean, you could be an adult and have adult children, and it's even more. You do keep a lot to yourself, and we all know this as parents, because we all have the worry and stress, right? Because we want to fix it, we want it to be better, our lived experience, we know consequences of what can happen or not happen. But I think too, as your kids are of certain ages, it's appropriate to communicate with them, because it's okay, like you said, it's okay for them to see we worry, because we're people, we're human beings. Like, we can't be the strongest ones always, or we'll break. Like you said, with caregiver burnout, that happens a lot, and it's okay to find a support that you can get that out for yourself. But yeah, I could say we probably all hide a lot of emotions. You yourself, I mean, we all do, because we're normal, but at the same time, it's okay to express them in a healthy way.
Yeah, in a healthy way.
Yeah.
Fidel, Alex, you have anything you want to add?
I agree. I think as the father figure, your kids look up to you in a certain way. And with my kid being 7, sometimes you got to put it up front, put that mask, pretend that you're Superman, but you always have that pressure on you, and that steel will always, give in, especially with all that pressure. And just not knowing what's ahead or into the future always keeps you worried. So having that stress of the unknown and making sure that you give a sense of hope to your child is always something that you want to continue doing. So that stress is always on your back, no matter what.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with what Fidel just said. I think it's so important because as caregivers or as siblings or just someone with arthritis yourself, it may be something that you don't want to bring, like something you've on your mind that you don't want to bring up because you don't want to stress anyone else out. But I think it's so important within your family to create like a sort of bubble, to just say, I am stressed out. I might not know what I'm stressed out about, but I would like the support. And I think it's also so powerful to just say, I don't know. Because when you don't have the answers and you're trying to come up with something that you cannot feasibly explain because it's such a hard concept that you've never even thought of before, you just have to admit, I don't know. But knowing that you have that bubble in your family, it makes it so much safer because you know that you can work through it together.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. Before we go to our last question, we have one more question. I don't know if runners want to see if there are any questions from the audience before we go on. Yeah. So she'll come around and pick up the cards for y'all, and then while we're answering this last question, okay? So this is for all 3 of you. Do y'all feel like there are some topics that are off limits when talking with your partner or family about the illness?
I like to have an open communication, so for me, no.
Love that.
There's nothing.
Yeah.
I really feel like in my personal experience, we've really tried tackling everything. But of course, it's hard with those off-topic conversations, especially when you're younger and sometimes you can't understand it. But it's also just so great to just be able to express those things, just not having a border of what you can and cannot say. But I also think that there has to be an understanding that with this chronic illness, with chronic illnesses in general, some people, and especially your children, it's the unfortunate fact that you have to grow up faster than other children. It's just a fact of life, and it's unfortunate. But it's also so liberating to know that growing up faster makes your children stronger, and it makes them more responsible and more mature in the long run.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the biggest thing too is there's so much information that we absorb from these appointments and diagnoses and just the stresses of just everyday lives of kids and the dynamic of the family. I really don't think too much is off limits. I mean, there's age-appropriate conversations you could have around certain topics, and there are certain things the kids, even with or without the conditions, kind of need to know. It could be some, financial issues. It could be insurance. It could be, you yourself need to take a break and step back because you need a break, and it's okay to do that. I mean, there's a lot of times that sometimes family dynamics are different between everyone. It's okay to speak on these things because it's the reality of life. We're all going to face some of these topics no matter what, if our kid has a chronic condition or not. You just want to make sure that it's appropriate, you know, people have a say or heard, and keeping that kind of environment safe for them, like you said, opens it up to make them want to come talk to you about things that might be hard later in the future, you know? So just keep that in mind. And a lot of times people always say, you know, be the parent or be the person that you didn't have growing up or around you that you need. Think of that. Like, there are some things that we needed as adults that we don't have, and that's how we kind of act or react. Just think of, too, like, they're also living these lives, and our families are living these lives all together. You know, it's our normal. It's not everyone's, and everyone does have something. So, yeah, I don't think too many topics are off limits, but, you know, being appropriate and open and hearing people, I think that's what we all need to do.
Yeah, that's a great answer to that. I do have some questions here. So I want to, one of them was, is it okay to have one-word answers, though? And yes, it is okay to just give a one-word answer. I think where it comes in is, like, if that's consistently the only answer you're getting, then maybe challenging them to either look at the feeling wheels a little bit more, or, like, if they don't want to talk about it and talking is not their thing, because for some people it's not, that's okay. Finding, again, those other channels that they can express. If they want to write it out, if they want to sing it out, if they want to scream, punch a punching bag, you know, whatever it is, to be able to get that emotion out, I think that's a healthy way to do it. But yes, it is okay to have a one-word answer. I think it's when it's consistent, like that is their only answer all of the time, then I might want to challenge them a little bit more and be like, hey, you know what? It's okay to, you know, to tell me that you're okay or you're fine. I was like, but can we explore maybe what it's like to be content or to be relaxed, or, you know, giving them, again, other words that they can use. But yeah, one word is fine. That was just my part, as like just a little challenge on them to learn about other emotions that they may be experiencing. So a question for all of us is, what are some ways to cope with burnout as an only parent with little outside support? Who, any of the panel would like to take an idea on that one?
I'm not a single parent, but I think the Arthritis Foundation is a good starting point, especially this summit. Hopefully, y'all met new parents, met new families that are going through the same thing that you're going through, and you can connect with them, not just today, but also in the future, going back to them. I know that's something that my wife has been doing, connecting with other individuals, as well as them trying to connect with her, and then she's just providing information that they might not know. So you are not alone. I see this as a whole family, so just reach out. There's always someone out there willing to help you. So don't feel like you're by yourself on this one.
I agree, and I think too, a lot of times as parents, we won't take the time for ourselves because we feel guilty that we should be doing for others. Even if the kids are in bed, at school, away, and you have time, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 1 minute, be quiet. Like, honestly, sit and be quiet for 5 minutes. Put your phone down. Sit in your car. How many times do you pull into the driveway and sit in your car just to be quiet before you walk into the mess? Right, we all do. We are all laughing because you know. If that's all it takes to just kind of get back into yourself and just kind of center yourself and be like, okay, give yourself a little pep talk. I got this, we're going into this house. We know it's gonna be crazy, address it. I think the biggest thing is take a few minutes for yourself every day too.
Yeah. So we have another question. So what do you feel like is the best way to help your JIA teen make decisions about competitive sports and long-term consequences without telling them what to do? How to help them or understand that they have their body for the rest of their life and that really, you know, they really live in the now. Before I jump to the panel, I want to say that my mom, growing up, always, and still to this day, she instilled in me quality over quantity. And so growing up, I played sports. She immediately put me in gymnastics. She wanted me to have the best life now. And so that was something that I still kind of hold true to this day. I just did my second half marathon, and that was something that like I never thought I'd be able to do, and so really pushing my boundaries to that, but really living again in the now. And so I think that is an important kind of mind frame to have. But I want to hear the panel's thoughts on that.
Yeah, my sister has done sports for a really long time. She started with volleyball, and that's how she got diagnosed with arthritis, and then she switched to swim, but she's pretty much stuck to rowing since. I think the most important thing about that is just giving them the first and final call on what they want and what don't want to do. Because for the longest time, she also did gymnastics when she was younger, but we realized that she was really uncomfortable doing that. And we had to give her that call. We have to give her the ability to say, no, I'm uncomfortable with doing this, and also the transparency of that, yeah, maybe it was a great opportunity, but if this opportunity is hurting you more than it is helping you, then it's not a good opportunity.
I agree with him. My kid, I wanted him to be a major league baseball player, but he said, "You know what, Dad? I think I'd rather be a coach." So he wants to be a t-ball coach, not a major league baseball player coach. Just give them the options. It's their lives. We lived our lives before. I know we want something better for them, but they're in their own chapter right now. Just support them, and if they want to play sports, go ahead, support them. Some of them, they'll notice that, maybe baseball's not my thing, and maybe golf is. Switch, because I think that's what he wants to do now. He wants to go and do golfing, so that's something that we'll start supporting. We just got to find a good coach for that, because I don't know how to golf.
Any thoughts? You good? All right. So another question for us is, my child refuses to open up, and I know something is going on. I want them to seek therapy, but also they refuse. Is it okay to make them go?
I do have thoughts.
Yeah, I'm gonna come and let Corinne take that one.
Actually, my girls are laughing at me. Actually, so probably about 5 years ago, Emily was in a bit of a flare right before COVID, and we went through the pain clinic, and you have all the specialists come see her and everything. She's fine. She's a happy kid. Yeah, I knew she wasn't, but also, 5 years ago she was 12. It's real fun. So between then and now that she's 17, we kind of recycled back through, and now we're going through, and she agreed to it. I wasn't going to make her do anything, because at those ages, you're going to get head-on complete shutdown, and that's not helping them, and then it's going to stress you and them out more. So forcing, no. Suggesting, making sure there's the option available and the resources available. Now she's gone through a program with a nurse practitioner, like a CBT program, which has been great. Now she's seeing a pain psychologist, but again, her terms. Yes, we think we know everything, but then again, access is good and the idea is good. I don't think forcing would help anything, quite frankly.
Yeah, do we have any other, Fidel or Alex, any thoughts on that? All right, no, I want to second everything that Corinne was saying. So in therapy, you need active participation, and if a kid comes in and they're not wanting to talk, it's kind of hard for me to be able to do my job if they're a stonewall. And so we need them to be open to the idea of talking. And so modeling that for them, you sharing why you would want them to potentially seek help. Also talk about your experiences. Again, them seeing the emotions that you experience are gonna allow them to feel safe enough to share that with you. And so that's a great way to go about it too. But forcing somebody into therapy probably isn't the best way to go about it. There are other ways we can talk up and encourage and talk through that. But yeah, what Corinne said is spot on there. Yeah. All right, last one. I think we have time for one more, so we're going to talk about this one. So can you give us an example of how to use an I statement in tough conversations? My teen is refusing meds and engaging in reckless activities. It's not my problem, it's theirs. So how can we use an I statement in that situation? Before I answer, do y'all have any ideas on it? You don't have to use an I statement, but do you have any ideas of how you would handle that situation? It's okay if you don't, I can take it. You look like you had an idea.
Again, it's a teenager. So their feeling and their perspective and their rationale is going to be very different because of age and maturity and not understanding the long-term consequences of things, which is appropriate, because we've learned a lot today that a lot of these things are very age appropriate, which we kind of forget because we've been forced into a place of growing up fast. We can show up with our lived experience a certain way in understanding, and I think if we articulate that to them, like, I know you're choosing to behave this way right now for whatever reason, probably because you're this age. And they want to be adult, they want to be independent, they don't like the way it makes them feel, like they're experimenting with things, which again, correct me if I'm wrong, developmentally appropriate. However, as parents, this is the time they're gonna test us, and we're also probably reacting of how experiential we had at that age and what we did or didn't do at that age. We have to put ourselves out as parents and just step back and say, okay, what we know and what we know are the consequences. I think articulating that in a way of just pretty factual statements. I tell my kids all the time, and they've learned this, take your emotions out of it sometimes because that doesn't help. We can be emotional about it, it's fine, but again, here's ABC. If you do ABC, X, Y, and Z may happen. Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to leave that as it, and like,
Yeah.
there's gonna be consequences on both sides. It's not gonna be probably a perfect agreement, but
I think when it comes to like medication, because again, kids are gonna test the boundaries with medication, especially when they get to that college age, guys. I'm just being honest with you. Transparent, authentic. I do think that it is important to show them, like, hey, if you don't take your medication from like a medical standpoint, if you don't do this, this is what is gonna happen in your body. I think it's starting to talk to your kids at a young age about that. I think that's very important. My mom had me doing my, working with her, doing my own granny pill counter when I was in middle school, and so I learned at an early age what that means, what each medication does. So I think that is important, but I also want to stress the importance of sharing, maybe not, way over here, but being like, I feel concerned when you don't take your medication because I know how that's gonna interact with your body in the long run. But again, they're gonna test the boundaries. Maybe they're gonna be a little bit achy or tired if they do something that, you're probably thinking, they probably shouldn't do that. But using that feelings word, using that I statement, I feel worried, I feel concerned, I feel anxious when you don't take your medication because I know it's gonna impact your body in the long run, or I know it's gonna do X, Y, or Z. So I think that would be kind of a good combination of the two because you want them to understand the medical side of things, but you also want them to be a kid, and then you also want to, again, consistent communication is key. So using those feeling words and those I statements. Anything else, guys? Yeah, go for it, Alex.
I really do agree with what Corinne said earlier of just trying to take your emotions out of it, because these conversations, especially with teenagers, can get very heated very quickly.
That's right.
I know I have two older
Yeah.
sisters that were all teens the same time I was a teen, am a teen. It's sometimes really hard to communicate these things when you're just so mad at each other.
Yeah.
But you have to just, like we said earlier, take a breath, take a moment, address the facts, and then possibly get into the emotions on those I statements. I feel concerned, I feel upset that maybe you did this or that you're not doing this. And that builds a bridge, and it helps build communication between
Yeah, when you're coming in hot, nobody's listening to anything that is being said. So at first presenting all of the facts and all of the things in a calm and peaceful manner, and then moving forward. I think that's a great combination. Again, yeah, taking both of those ideas. All right, guys, so more ways to connect and learn. Here are some other websites and webinars that we have available for you. You can go to any of those listed. And then also, I know today was like a lot of information in a short period of time. So we are going to continue the conversation. So if you enjoyed today's conversation, and I know you did, join me for the webinar October 23rd. You can register with a QR code there. I'm sure it's going to be on the website, maybe put in a few other places as well. We're going to dive even deeper into what it's really like for our kids living with arthritis and how to support them through those various challenges that they experience. You're going to hear real stories. You're going to get tips from young adults and parents who've been through it. We're going to talk about handling the ups and downs, coping with those flares, and dealing with tough stuff like shots and blood draws and hospital visits. So scan that QR code or go check the website if y'all want to know more, okay? So thank y'all for having us.
Now I have the pleasure and the honor of presenting the Patty Reddick Award for a nurse or a healthcare professional leadership. The award is presented to a nurse or a healthcare professional who truly, truly embodies the spirit of yes, someone who supports the Arthritis Foundation mission and empowers their patients to connect, engage, and thrive within their community. This year's honoree is somebody you've just met and heard from, Dr. Kara Dingess, who has asked that now she be referred to as Kara, so we'll go ahead and do that. Kara is a licensed pediatric psychologist. She's a passionate advocate and lifelong champion for children with arthritis. I won't repeat all of her diagnostic stuff because she shared that with us. If you want to hear it again, she'll tell you about it again later. So we'll try to keep it casual for us. Kara is a national voice for the JA community. She mentors teens, supports newly diagnosed families, and contributes to key initiatives within the Arthritis Foundation and CARA. So the C-A-R-R-A, CARA, for those of you who don't know what it is. And I have to say now, in addition to all the work with the kids and the teens, I think we are truly blessed and honored to have Kara working with us as the parents. It's a real nice thing to have added. So she's located in Louisiana, where she chairs the JA committee, organizes JA days and events, builds vital partnerships, and helps grow the JA community with her warmth, energy, and dedication. From securing resources for families to helping fulfill a young patient's dream of attending the Super Bowl, Kara leads with heart, authenticity, and impact. She's a true role model, living the mission of the Arthritis Foundation every day and inspiring others to do the same. Please join me in congratulating Kara, the 2025 recipient of the Patty Reddick Healthcare Professional Award.
No, thank y'all so much. I want to thank the Arthritis Foundation for this award. I want to thank my family and my partner for their constant support. I give back because this community means a lot to me. It's something that I had growing up, and I want to make sure that every individual here in the room and every kid here feels the love and support and has the resources available to them. So I want to thank you all as well for allowing me to share my story with you and share the knowledge that I have. So thank you so much.